Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show. I want to talk today about immigration, about the state of Minnesota, and it being once again embroiled at the center of not just a national debate, but a national horror show where a woman was killed, where protests against law enforcement are running rampant. That is here in the state of Minnesota, again, just down the road. This is part 2 of my discussion. I believe you can hear part 1 at episode 451. And this is episode 452 of the Andrew Parker Show. So a woman was shot, killed by federal agents, law enforcement agents, who were in Minnesota enforcing federal law as it relates to illegal immigration and crime. Now, the way I've just described that will be disputed by some. Some will argue that federal ICE agents are doing nothing of the sort. They are not fighting illegal immigration nor fighting crime in our communities by enforcing federal law, which I don't think there is any dispute. That is the job of federal agents, to enforce federal law, despite the fact that state jurisdictions or state law enforcement may have overlapping jurisdiction. It certainly is first and foremost for federal authorities to enforce federal law, and federal authorities have every right to do that. The fact that certain leaders, so-called leaders, at the state level are interfering with federal action in enforcing federal law is unfortunate, to say the least. Ideally, we would be working together, even if you disagree with the current law or current policy. As it relates to policy, that is set by elected officials. And there was a recent election, and those that oppose the policy currently being employed lost that election. There are results from elections here in the United States, and that does not mean if you lose, you then go to the streets and incite violence and carry on with illegal conduct, criminal conduct. But that is what is happening. And the toxic environment and stew that is out there is being stirred by some of these elected officials at the state level. Right here in Minnesota, for sure, that has happened. The mayor of Minneapolis, the governor, the attorney general, all creating an environment for people to come out and incite violence, to riot, to create a toxic environment in which federal officials are trying to work. And the result of this sort of stirring of the pot is a woman is now dead. Now, people will say, no, that isn't what caused it. What caused it was the federal authorities being here in the first place. Well, you can disagree with the policy or the practice of having federal law enforcement enforcing federal law. But again, there was an election. You can peacefully protest the policy. Was that what happened? Again, when we were shot, the blame game has started, and it hasn't stopped. It's been continuous ever since. And in fact, it is being used for political purposes. Now, the legal battle over whether the federal law enforcement agent who discharged their weapon, killing this woman, was justified under the law of doing so, and therefore has immunity, it's a difficult question, and it's one that, frankly, it's too early to tell. Nonetheless, these politicians here at the state level have acted as if they know for sure. In addition, frankly, the Secretary of Homeland Security came down very, very quickly thereafter with pronouncements of domestic terrorist using the vehicle as a weapon could have resulted in serious bodily injury or death to the officer. All of these things are conclusions that, if true, would result in an exoneration of the officer. But more and more video is coming in. We will learn more and more. And so it's irresponsible for Jacob Fry to take to the microphone, for Governor Walz to take to the microphone with these conclusive comments about what happened. And of course, that the law enforcement officer should be thrown in jail for life. I exaggerate, but you know what I mean. So after having created the problem, the liberal progressives are taking advantage of it. They're saying, see, you shouldn't deploy federal law enforcement, and no state should deploy any law enforcement to enforce the law on the books, because we don't like the law on the books. We don't like that illegal immigrants are being swept up and deported, even though every president over the last many, many decades have done just that. Deportations, maybe not at the numbers and level and speed with which they are being done now, but we haven't had as many illegal immigrants invading into this country. I use that word, and it may be a bit spicy, but it is descriptive, and I think accurately descriptive, of what occurred over the past 4 years under Joe Biden. It was a crisis at the border, and of course it took several of those 4 years in order for the Biden administration to admit that, but they ultimately did. It was obvious from the beginning, and people act as if it's no big deal. Well, if you're the parents of one of the girls that was murdered by raped and murdered by these illegal immigrants, and there were many, you probably wouldn't feel that way. And how many other crimes were committed. But simply being here without going through the process is illegal. So the issue and dispute and disagreement over immigration, I don't need to go through it again, is real, and people have different views, but that is why we have elections. And that is why in a democratic society, you live by those elections. And you live by the laws that are enacted by democratically elected officials. Those laws are on the books. If you don't like them, you don't take to the streets with criminal conduct. You don't protect, aid, and abet criminal conduct, such as illegally being in this country and people helping you to stay in the country even though you're here illegally. No, you don't do those things. You go to the ballot box and you switch who's in leadership and what their policies are. Or you enact new laws as it relates to procedure and process of immigration. I've talked about it many times. But no, instead, these liberal progressive state elected officials stand in the way. They aid and abet criminal conduct. And when that happens and law enforcement is out in force and doing its duty under federal law as directed by the federal government, somebody could easily get hurt, and it has now happened. And those that turned the other way when the invasion of millions of illegal migrants came into this country, many of them with criminal records, many of them engaging in criminal conduct. But in any event, they're here illegally, and we have had a policy of deportation for a long, long time. When you stand in the way of that, this is not a shocking result. It's a very unfortunate and sad result, but it is not shocking. And now it is being used by both sides, by all sides, as a cause celeb, as a, waving the banner. See, this is your fault. No, it's your fault. And the blame game has begun and will not certainly stop. Leaders creating a toxic environment really is disgraceful, and we're seeing it primarily on the left. It is an environment to keep people here. It may be for the purpose of voting and getting access at the ballot box, because it is believed that it will benefit one side versus the other. But of utmost importance is that we come back to level. We do not interfere with anyone's right for peaceful protest. But what is happening here in Minneapolis is anything but peaceful protest. While you agree or disagree with the policy of federal law enforcement enforcing the law, you can agree or disagree with that and with the policy. Taking to the streets and defying law enforcement, interfering with law enforcement, is not only not helpful, it's illegal. And we need to enforce that aspect of our law. If we don't, our laws become meaningless, and society breaks down into anarchy. And that is what is happening here in Minneapolis. And our leaders are fomenting it. And it's really a disgrace. Now, you can challenge my comments by saying, well, we need better trained federal officers, or we shouldn't have federal officers in any state doing anything anyway. Well, would you have said that when we were trying to desegregate schools in the South and we had to deploy federal officers because the states were so opposed to it in the South, certain states? Would you have said that then? Well, of course not, because that's the right thing and the righteous thing. And in this case, protecting immigrants, whether here illegally or not, is the righteous thing. Is it? Do you think that's what the parents of the murdered, raped and murdered by illegal immigrants, those parents, you think that's what they believe? What if it was your daughter? It's horrific, the crimes that have occurred. And you can't deny them. You can't sweep them under the rug, ignore them. Well, you can, I suppose, and many of you do. But it's wrong, I believe. I'll speak up on it. That's wrong because it is real. These are real life consequences. Well, it could have happened anyway, irrespective of illegal immigrants. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. Well, as I said on the previous episode 451, you can't defend with an argument that, well, even legal immigrants or citizens engage in crime. In fact, at a much higher level than illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are the safest of all people. I don't believe that the evidence supports that, but even if it were the case, that isn't the point. If they are here illegally, they shouldn't be here, and if they weren't here and the law were enforced, those deaths, however many they create or their actions result in, they shouldn't have happened. None of them. And I can only tell you that here in the state of Minnesota, you've got Rent-A-Mob, and they're at the ready, and they have been coming out in force for years, even before George Floyd. And they shouldn't be. And if they do, they shouldn't be doing it in any manner other than peacefully, which has not been the case. I want to shift gears now for a moment. And by the way, before I do, it's not just these girls that have been raped and murdered by people who should not be in this country. But people who should not be in this country that are driving semi-tractor trailers and killing that family that ran into them. That was just one example. There are several others. As he jackknifed across an expressway right in front of these people. There are victims, real victims of illegal immigration, real victims resulting from people who should not be here in the first place and have ill intentions. And that's why we have these laws on the books. Again, if you disagree with them, we can debate it. That doesn't mean much. But you can have them changed by voting people into office who agree with you that these laws are wrong-headed. We need to change them. Get those people elected. Go and change the law. But until then, the democracy, the democratic process works. And when you talk about, fascism, Nazi-like conservatives, no, it's the other way around, in fact. The democratic process is followed and tracked by most, if not all, that I see in the Republican Party who are saying, well, there are a lot of policies we don't agree with, but we don't have the votes to change them. Or, if you have sufficient votes, change the immigration laws. Let's get it done. But in the meantime, our law enforcement are going to deal with the problem created by the liberal left, and that is the open border issue. So the liberal left creates the problem, creates the crisis, and then takes advantage of and uses the crisis for messaging to gin up more hatred, animosity, toxicity, anarchy. Now I want to turn quickly to another comment. Be watching Iran. Be watching what's going on there. And be watching Donald Trump's handling of it in comparison to Barack Obama, who completely botched it. Joe Biden botched many things, including in the Middle East and Asia, including Afghanistan and the handling of getting out of Afghanistan. You'll recall that during the Obama administration, the Benghazi issue and the complete debacle. These are Democrat issues that have arisen under Democrat rule, under Democratic leadership. And it's one disaster after another. As I've said many times, they're going to get us all killed. You may disagree with the way in which Donald Trump handles foreign policy or the issues of the day, and maybe he's too muscular, maybe he's too threatening. Maybe some of his concepts are bombastic, or like the Greenland claims that he's made a bit outrageous. People call that out all the time. But at the core of it, he's got guts, and he takes action, and he takes action consistent with what he says. And when he draws a red line, he meets it, unlike Obama. And people know that he is serious. And that is why what is going on in Iran is happening. It's similar, in a different way, but similar to Ronald Reagan, ending the Soviet Union without firing a shot. Now, we did bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, and we killed Soleimani, and we've taken other steps along the way, as well our number one ally in the world, Israel, has as well. But all of those things lead up to Hezbollah falling apart, Hamas being destroyed, the Syrian government gone, the butcher of Damascus gone. And it could well happen in Iran. Would that be amazing? And if Trump handles this properly, it could well happen. Yeah, what do we care, Iran? It's another backwards country. No, it means an enormous shift in the Middle East, because it's not really just about Iran. It is about the number one government sponsor of terrorism anywhere in the world falling, being destroyed. Since 1979, when, again, a Democrat allowed for and did nothing in response to the revolution that occurred in Iran, allowing U.S. interests to flag in the wind, to just flail about for 40-some years, right? Yeah. And it's simply amazing that every time you see complete disaster on the world stage, it's a Democrat right in the middle of it. They just are on the wrong side of history virtually every time. And when you had a Democrat who stood up with backbone, that's a Democratic Party that would be shunned to the back benches with a few members of Congress, and that's it, never to be seen from again. And I'm talking about JFK's Democratic Party, Hubert Humphrey's Democratic Party. Before that, Harry Truman's Democratic Party. That doesn't exist anymore at all. But we'll see if Trump understands what is needed in Iran. I think he does. And I particularly think Marco Rubio does. Rubio has done just a fantastic job as Secretary of State. Really has. Better than I even expected. Thank you once again for joining me on the Andrew Parker Show, and I hope you had the opportunity to download and listen to the interview I had just a few episodes ago with Dean Phillips. It's very, very interesting, enlightening. And then I think it was episode 450 was my interview with the brilliant Melanie Phillips. No, unlike many who are morally bankrupt today, she is the opposite of that. And it was a real pleasure to have her with us on the show. Go to the andrewparkershow.com and subscribe, follow us, and you will get right away when new episodes drop, so you can listen in. Stay current. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.